Hi, Chapel Hill. This time, your midweek message is coming to you from another significant room in our church, and that is the church library. I'm here in the library because this is a place where lots of very important things happen, right here in this room. For starters, this is where the staff meet every week. We would meet every Tuesday morning here in this room to listen to what God's telling us about what lies ahead for the week, to make sure that we're seeing all that we need to see and to celebrate what He's done in the past week. And so there are all kinds of good conversations that have happened here in this room. This is where the elders meet. Our monthly meetings would usually happen right here in this room, where we discern God's voice and look for His guidance on what's going on in the church and where is the church headed. So that happens here in this room. There are lots of other things that happen here in this room. On Sunday mornings, this is where the worship team would gather to pray before every service that we did and invite God's Spirit to come and fill this place and minister to us. There are all kinds of Bible studies that happen here in this room, including a high school Bible study that would happen here on Wednesday nights that two of my sons are involved in. All kinds of other Bible studies where people come here to seek God out. And speaking of that, as part of our care ministries, there were groups that met regularly in this room as well to seek God and His comfort and His healing and His peace in whatever they might be facing in their lives. And so there's a lot of meaning to this room, and I'm here because this is a week when I am really seeking God out in a big way, in a significant way. Last week we talked about, in the service, we talked about faith. We're on a faith, hope, and love series right now. We talked about faith, and I shared with you the fact that I feel like God is testing my faith. He's testing our faith right now, and that's that we need to be in tune with that and listening to Him. Because right now there are a million different voices coming at me. I wish you could hear it all the conversations about churches reopening and what that's going to take and when it should happen and all of the details that go with that. And there's a lot going on out there. There are a lot of voices, a lot of different opinions, a lot of different perspective. There are things coming at me every single day. And a lot of this is in response to this crisis, this pandemic, being an interruption, being seen as an interruption to what we do. It has taken us away from what we do, and we can't wait to get back to what we do. And so there's all this talk about we got to go, we got to get it open, we got to get back to what we do. And I'm taking all that in, but I'm also hearing this great perspective that says, what if this is not just an interruption? This is a disruption. This is us being knocked off course just enough so that we can see things from a different perspective and really seek God out and ask God, say, God, what are you doing? Why did you allow this to happen? What are you trying to show us? What do you want to say to us? And that whole thing excites me. That's where my head has gone this week is, God, what are you doing? And that requires me and all of us to come to Him in prayer and simply ask that, God, show us what you're doing. Show us the direction you want us to go. May your will be done here at Chapel Hill Church and in our lives everywhere that we are. And so what I want to do today is I want to call you, the church, into praying that with me. Will you join me this week in praying, God, what are you doing? Show us what you're doing. Show us your will. Show us how we can be involved in carrying out your will during this time. What is it that you're about? And I ask that you would pray that as leadership in the church and for all of us leading our families, planning out our individual lives, making those decisions, pray that we would follow a simple model that we've talked about here at length at this church not long before the pandemic struck. And it was all based on this. Do you remember this diagram? This has to do with us putting God at the center of our lives, and then others, and then ourselves. And my prayer right now, as we seek God's will for what happens with this church, what God's doing right now, and how we align with him, my prayer is that we stick to this model, that we put God at the center. God is first, and then we put others ahead of ourselves, and we make our decisions in that way based on that model. So will you pray that with me this week, that God's will is accomplished, that we keep him first in the center, and we consider others as well as we make decisions and we look at what he's got for us right now. God, what are you doing? This coming Sunday, we're going to carry on in our series on faith, hope, and love. We're going to talk about hope. And all of us need to be reminded right now of what our hope is, what we can hang on to, not just from a human perspective of the things we hope will happen, but from a confident, a joyful, confident expectation of what God has promised us, of what's coming. That is our hope. We want to look this Sunday at what our hope is. So join me on Sunday. I look forward to having us together to the best of our ability and celebrating what God has already given us, the hope that he's provided for us. I'll see you Sunday. In the meantime, pray with me. Pray for God's will to be done here at Chapel Hill and all over this world.